right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So let's do the early record prediction for the New York Jets, right? The schedule's obviously out, and I've had a couple days to really, get into the schedule, sleep on it, and to also check out what other teams are doing right around the time that the Jets are playing, right? The before and afters, things like that. Okay, so let's not waste time here. The first game up, Jets at Titans. I'm going to say it's a win. I think the Jets are just a better team than the Titans at this point in time. And yes, the Jets did make a lot of changes, but they added a bunch of veterans. DeMario Davis, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Geno Smith. These guys aren't going to have a tough time picking up the system. But if you flip it and look at it from Tennessee's perspective, right, they have a brand new head coach in Robert Saleh. They're changing their defensive scheme. They have a brand new offensive coordinator coming in with Brian Daboll. He's going to be taking over play calling. I feel like week one against a revamped Jets defense that is going to be multiple, it's going to be more creative, it's going to be more versatile compared to last season. I just prefer the Jets matchup. I think the Jets early on will probably look more ready to go, more like a well-oiled machine compared to Tennessee, where there might be there might be a bigger transition period, right? The overall, the coaching staff is younger than New York. The team, a lot of their acquisitions are, these kind of players in their mid-20s. You're thinking about players like Cordell Flott and Wan'Dale Robinson, Carnell Tate, their first-round pick, Anthony Hill at linebacker. I just feel like, again, the Jets are the better team here at this point in time. So Jets start the season off 1-0. And then we come back and play the Packers week 2, home opener here. Now, Aaron Glenn has gotten the better of Matt LaFleur in the Lions-Packers days, right? In those 4 seasons where Glenn was the DC of the Lions, where he was running that defense, calling that defense. His record against LaFleur was 5-3. Okay, so he's coming out of that battle on top. We also have to factor in that Micah Parsons could start the season off on the PUP list, so we'll see what happens there. But at this point in time, I'm just going to give Green Bay the benefit of the doubt and say loss in week 2. Coming back, Jets at Lions week 3, I'm going to go with a loss here. I think Detroit made a ton of underrated moves. I've seen a lot of people take shots at the Petzig hire. This guy's going to throw the rock down the field, right? I'm expecting Jared Goff to put up monster passing numbers, as well as their their weapons, specifically Jamison Williams, to be making plays deep down the field. You watched Petzig's offense with Arizona when Jacoby Brissett took over. There was an emphasis on pushing the ball, being aggressive, taking these vertical shots. Detroit, man, I think they're going to come out of the gate swinging. Not just this week, but literally against, their down season this past year. I think they're going to be coming back ready to go and healthy too. One of the maybe underrated storylines of last season, I think a lot of people looked at Detroit and said, oh, they fell off. The amount of injuries that the Lions sustained, it was just complete madness. So I think a healthy Lions team early in the season, that could very well be a loss. So week 4, Jets at Bears. I think at surface value, a lot of people are just going to say automatic loss. I don't want to go that far. I'm kind of looking at this game as a potential swing opportunity. Why do I say that, right? Because you think back to the Jets, they were awful last season. You think back to the Bears, they won a bunch of games. You're thinking about Caleb Williams on 4th down in the playoffs, making that crazy play to, who was it, DJ Moore for the TD. Insane year. Ben Johnson, the hype, the post game. But when I think about the Bears, this is a team that had a lot of one-possession wins this past season, and they were number 1 in the league in turnover differential. So that's a very difficult stat to duplicate. Now, I'm not saying that the Bears are going to fall off or they're going to have 6 wins, 7 wins, and, fall back to being mediocre. Not saying that in the least, but I am saying that a lot of their wins, you can trace it back to turnovers, or takeaways, that margin, right? The defense picked off the football a ton. They created a lot of opportunities for that offense. And again, when you're leading the NFL in that category and you have a lot of one-score wins, there's a direct correlation there, right? If you take the Bears and you say, okay, instead of first, they were 13th or they were 9th as far as the turnover margin differential was concerned, do they come away with a lot of those one-score wins? I don't know. I don't think so. And then also kind of the cherry on top here, you look at the Bears' schedule. It is freaking tough early, right? Week 1, they play the former playoff team in the Carolina Panthers. Week 2 divisional rivalry game against the Minnesota Vikings at home. Then Philadelphia in prime time the week before the Jets, right? In week 3, it's Bears Eagles. Okay, then the Jets game, then Green Bay Packers, another big time divisional game. Could the Bears exiting that Philadelphia game maybe be looking ahead to Green Bay and sleep on the Jets? So for me, I think it's a pretty interesting scheduling point, but I don't know. This one's tough. So I could see it being a loss. I could see it being a win. I just don't feel great about picking either one. I feel like this is one of the biggest swing game on the schedule. So week 5, home against the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to say it's a win. I mean, somehow the Jets managed to beat Cleveland last season with all of the issues that, they sustained. I think the Browns are going to be a lot better up front, but still not a perfect product. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. First year with Todd Monken as head coach. I don't really know what to expect there. They did lose Jim Schwartz. Does the defense take a step back? Does the defense get better? I'm not sure. I do look for Cleveland to try to establish the running game on the road here. So, for me, I just feel like the Jets are the better team. If you want to play that game with New York, I don't really think you're going to be coming out on the other side victorious. Week 6, Jets at Patriots here. I'm going to say it's a loss, but quick spoiler, I do have a splitting with the Patriots. So we do end up playing them in week 16. I'm going to have that one as a win. So 1-1 with the Patriots this upcoming season. But yeah, in week 6, so like on the surface, it's or at face value, it's like, okay, the Patriots just made the Super Bowl and the Jets are coming off a 3-win season. How do you have any confidence that they're going to be splitting? I mean, if you look at the first time these two teams squared up against each other, and let's just put aside the easy schedule that the Patriots had this past season, I felt like they were, in that first half, it was pretty close. I mean, we dropped 3 interceptions in that game, 3 picks off of defenders' hands. If they just would have simply caught those, could that game have gone a different way? It's totally fair to ask that question. So, coming back with all of these new upgrades that we have, I just feel like we're a much better football team today than we were at this point last season. But again, splitting with the Patriots. Then week 7 and week 8, 2 back-to-back home games here against the Dolphins and the Raiders. Back-to-back wins here. I'm going back-to-back wins. With the Miami Dolphins, I feel like they are going to, unfortunately, be one of the worst teams in football. And then with Vegas, I like what they've done this offseason, but I don't feel like they are at the point where they're going to be securing 6, 7, 8 wins, maybe 6 at the ceiling. For me, cross-country trip, back-to-back home games, no travel, the week before. I think the Jets are just the better team compared to the Raiders. Week 9 at Chiefs, week 10 home against the Bills, week 11 at the Chargers. I'm going 3 straight L's there, right? 3 straight L's. I think in all 3 cases, Chiefs, Bills, Chargers, they're all better than New York. 2 of those games are on the road. Buffalo, I feel like, is going to continue to be a juggernaut. I've seen some people criticizing Buffalo's offseason moves. I'm actually, objectively speaking, I think they've done some pretty impressive stuff. They've added high floor players. We know what we're going to get from DJ Moore. We know what we're going to be getting from Bradley Chubb. You look at their draft. I think there's probably going to be 2 to 3 contributors right out of the gate. And then the interesting twist is Jim Leonard calling the defense, having that scheme change to a 3-4. I feel like they have enough pieces there. Now, it's not a perfect defense, and I still feel like they could use some, specific positions, specific players. But I feel like overall that Bills defense is, or really that Bills team is going to be a tough out, very, very tough out. And it's sandwiched in between going to Arrowhead and then going to SoFi with the Chargers. Very brutal 3-week span there. But in week 12, it's Jets at Dolphins. I do see us getting a win here. Again, I just feel like we're the better team compared to Miami. I'm just not I like the direction that the Dolphins are going in. I think this step is necessary, but you just look at the amount of players lost, factoring in having a brand new quarterback and a brand new front office and a brand new head coach here, Jeff Hafley. I just don't know. This is going to be post trade deadline as well. Could the Dolphins maybe flip a couple pieces, some surprising pieces to acquire more draft picks for the future? I don't know. For me, Jets, they take care of business on the road against the Dolphins. one of the biggest areas of concern with that Dolphins team is offensive line production over the last, for a long time. And again, I love what the Jets did on their defensive front. Week 13 bye, week 14 Denver Broncos coming to MetLife Stadium. This one I think could be a lot closer than what meets the eye here, but I'm still going to say, hey, you know what? The Broncos made it to the AFC Championship last season. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Jets take the L here in week 14. Week 15, Jets at Cardinals. For me, I just don't know what to expect from Arizona. Mike LaFleur, first-year head coach. I'm not the biggest Mike LaFleur guy to begin with. I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. Is it going to be Carson Beck at this stage? I'm just not a believer in Arizona at this point in time, but it is a long trip, right? What was it? A couple years ago, the Jets went out to Arizona and they got humiliated. Week 16, New England Patriots, again, splitting with the Patriots. So whether it's winning the first one, losing the second, or losing the first one and picking up the second, 1-1 against New England. And then I do have us losing to the Vikings in week 17. And then the week 18 matchup with the Bills, that's always a weird one, right? Because the Bills could be resting their starters just like they did last season. So in total, 7-10 for me. But if you want to count that Chicago one as a win, then 8-9. I think the floor is probably 6 wins. Anything less than 6 wins, I want a brand new coaching staff in the mix. That's the reality. That's what I think the Jets would do. But for me, 7-10, and I think that'd be, you're more than doubling your win total. And then you're all of a sudden looking at an off season saying, okay, 7 wins. We've solidified ourselves. We've stabilized the organization. Now let's go out of these 3 first-round picks and a second rounder. Let's go out and attack free agency with a top 5 cap space sheet. Pretty damn impressive, right? Pretty impressive. So I'm really looking at this season as improvement, as growth. Can you take that next step? I'm not saying, hey, take 2-3 steps and we got to be knocking on the door of the playoffs all season. And if we're not, it's a disappointment and fire everybody. But if we can end the season with 7 wins or 8 wins, I think for me, that's totally realistic for where this team is currently at. Anything less than that, and I'm probably going to be moving on from the coaching staff. My personal opinion, especially with guys like Sean McDermott out there, Mike Tomlin out there. Albeit you'd have to trade for Tomlin. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your early record prediction too, because this could change, right? Injuries happen. Could a starting quarterback go down for another team, that we play? Could someone get hurt on our team? Knock on wood here. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.